Hey everyone. Sorry, it's been a few days. Actually, for the past couple of days, I've had a subject in mind and things to talk about. But when it came to the actual recording and delivering the message part, I just couldn't find time for it, which is very strange. It's like in my head, there's a war going on between putting time into executing the videos that I've got ideas for and spending time with my partner and family. I guess I'm visiting my mum at the moment. You may notice it's not an orange background at the moment, like it is when I'm at my partner's. But it's been quite difficult to break away from spending time in each other's presence, just doing simple things like cooking or cleaning together and taking a break and playing some computer games together, like watching a couple of episodes of anime. It's almost like I can feel that something bad's going to happen this year and that I'm really going to regret these moments unless I know in my heart of hearts that I've done my best to spend as much time as I can with my loved one. When I say my loved ones, there's literally two people I'm included in that. That's my partner and my mum. There's friends that I have that I care about, but this is a different level. This, not that I want to put anything on a downer. Just it's been a bit strange. A couple of days ago, the idea for the video was on Wednesday. It was more to do with reaching a stage of I don't even know what to call it. It's like you could call it bliss, but that's like applying it to something. It's like you would have duality is a thing, or is two things. You've got like a scale, then you've got different shades between black and white. It's monochrome, one color, many different shades of that color. That's what you get with duality. But it's the way that you get a whole spectrum of things that seems to be collapsed into a duality of things, and then a singularity of things as you're able to recognize these things as the same, just two ends, a bit like the heads and the tails of a coin, or the north and south pole of a magnet, being able to recognize them as coin and magnet instead of the two halves, like recognizing love and hate as passion rather than the positive or negative form of it. And it's about realizing that above all else, I've managed to get comfortable in both extremes. Like, I've spent a lot of my life detached from the world. I decided at a young age that that was the easiest way to try and get through this life. It was detachment, and it was something I discovered consciously when I started getting naked in public around friends and in public places, not quite out in the street streaking, but not far off of it sometimes. It's not something I feel ashamed of. It's something that I definitely wouldn't advise and promote. I wouldn't I wouldn't suggest for you to go out and get naked in public or in front of people as a way of breaking through these barriers, but just in the telling of my story, that's what I did and that's how it happened. It's led to some really fun times, really hilarious times, and it's also led to a mindset of being completely detached from what is around. Because when I first done it, it was crossing a boundary of worrying about what other people thought of me. I mean, your body, your naked body, has many imperfections. I'm not sure about you personally. Your body might be perfect. Mine, not so much. I had many things I wasn't happy about back then. Now it's before the age and everything else has had an effect. All of the wear and tear throughout the years, all of the different things that we put in our bodies that are not really meant to be there. So I've got that side of it. Being comfortable in the chaos and the pain, and also being happy to get out of it. It sends mixed signals sometimes. I get into some states where I feel like I can be perfectly blissfully happy, and maybe these aren't even the right words to describe it. It's more like a neutral state, more like I can be perfectly fine with this. And it's that level of detached that you can feel. It's almost like you're detached enough to recognize that there's dangers and not see them as a concern, because it's like you detach yourself from it and then feel like the consequences don't apply to you. Know that that's part of the way that I felt. And what manifested was quite similar. There was people that were, I mean, just to put it simply, I never got into any big trouble doing what I was doing. It was usually at friends' house parties or in games of truth or dare. I actually had a house party myself once where I invited a bunch of people around. I think I was about 14 at the time. And I got naked for most of the party and gave people tarot card readings. It was an idea that I had at the time, because I found that when you were shuffling tarot cards, for when you get someone to shuffle the cards for when you do them a reading, it's hard to sometimes know when to stop or to let it feel natural, because you overthink it and you put your conscious brain into it too much. And that can have an effect on what cards come out for you. And I thought of a way of taking people's minds off of what they were doing if they had to try and also wrestle with the idea of the absurdity of having a naked guy doing the reading for you. No, this was an alternative crowd. It wasn't a sexual thing. It's a way of being with alternative and absurd situations as if it's normal. Something that people like myself have always found a bit of an attraction to. I've always preferred, when I was in school and other places, social places, always preferred hanging around with the misfits, the people that didn't specifically belong anywhere, the wild cards. We'd always end up somehow finding each other. And this isn't even like where you get nerdy groups of people hang around with each other. It's like we weren't even smart enough to be with the nerds. We were just oddballs, people that didn't fit in. And that's not to say that we were stupid. We were all good in our own rights of what we do. But yeah, a lot of what we wanted to do from an early age, from about 13 years old, was just get drunk, take drugs, listen to music, in in a way just to enjoy our youth. And yeah, there was I guess a bit of sexual awakening, but the nakedness wasn't really about anything sexual. It's just more on the showing your vulnerabilities and dealing with the fact that people can see them and not caring that people can see them. And I think that that level of detachment that I had, that I saw as a strength, I got to see the other side of it. I got to see where it became a weakness as well. Because to be able to live like that, you slowly start desensitizing. And I think also through realizing how dark and disturbing this world can be around us. There's always that thing where, I mean, I'm not sure if it works in all cultures the same, but for a lot of us, when we were drinking alcohol, especially spirits, you do your best not to make a face when you drink the spirit. So you're showing everyone else how hard you are by how much of this spirit you can tolerate without even showing it in your face that it was burning your lips or your mouth or something. And so you end up doing that with more than just alcohol. People show you some disturbing footage. There was something that was known as the Ken Bigley assassination years ago. There's videos of people being beheaded. And they circulated, and a lot of people, quite rightly, didn't want to see them. And that is the way that humans should be, really. Shouldn't really have that morbid curiosity to go have a look. A lot of humans, we all know, don't we, that it's not how it works. When there's a car crash, you can't help but look. Or people rubbernecking to try and find out what's happened. It's a human instinct. But it doesn't feel like it should be. It's natural to seek these things out to satisfy a morbid curiosity. It's also where curiosity kills the cat comes from. Well, I mean, not the specific story of what curiosity it was that killed the cat, but presumably same pattern, just in a different place. It's what kills your innocence. It's what kills the side of you that can be innocent, because you're getting desensitized to it. And the innocence comes from having your senses being open, having your heart unguarded, even though you end up taking that hit, that first love, the first heartbreak, that hit, that rejection. It's painful. If you're insensitive to it, you wouldn't know much about that. You'd probably be doing the person. You'd probably be the person doing the hurting, doing the punching, because the being desensitized to it means lack of empathy for it. And I think that for me, it became a thing that I would do as a party trick, not just getting naked at parties, but trying to always be doing something to try and make other people laugh. Initially was just anything, usually something absurd. But then the early noughties, 2004, around about that time maybe, people like Eminem were big. All of the rap that would have been going through my head would have been really absurd things, really dark topics. A lot of the jokes, I think Jimmy Carr was a big thing. It was people like Jimmy Carr and Frankie Boyle might have just started coming out. And the shock value was getting lots of laughs. And I didn't particularly think it was clever to just use shock value to get a reaction out of people. But what I liked to do was push things way over the line. So I'd always grown up watching South Park. And I love that South Park were able to make fun of absolutely anyone, absolutely anything, and get away with it because it was done in such a tactful way that you couldn't help but find it amusing. I mean, many people have been offended by them, but I couldn't help but find it amusing. And I found that a lot of people, it was the same. People try and make out like they're good people and they're not prejudiced and they don't have these thoughts about people. And then you see what they laugh at, and you realize people don't know what they are. People don't realize how these things affect them. Everyone's too busy trying to identify. It's all about, oh, I'm not like that. I'm not like these people. I am like these people. Oh, I align with these people. Oh, what team are you on? I'm on this team. Yes, pro not doing these things until something comes along and breaks it. Because you might think that you don't laugh at dark humor until one day a joke catches you off guard and you can't stop laughing. And they say that's the kind of world that we live in. It's a mad world. If you don't laugh, you go insane. And if you do laugh, you already are insane. Well, when it comes to what I was thinking about the other day, Wednesday, Woden's Day, Suiobi, Water Day, is singularity. Like, in singularity, there's no God or the devil. They're the two opposite ends of the same coin, the two opposing ends of the same magnet. And to collapse that duality into singularity, it is realizing that there is the creation and the polarization of it. So, like the flip side of it, like separating the waters from the waters in the first place. I mean, if you were to depict this maybe as freezing some of the water so you get half of it be ice and half of it be water, it might be a bit easier to visualize than separating water from water and forming spirit and water, or air and water, like vapor and water, or vapor. Yeah, it would be vapor and water. But you would, maybe if you picture it as solid ice and liquid water, you've got the, if the ice were to melt into the water state and all of it is just water, no boundaries, there is no opposite to water. Like if you introduce maybe another element, you've got an opposer to the water, maybe fire, maybe earth, but you would have something else. When it's just one element in one state, that's singularity. And that's when everything aligns perfectly. In the world of duality, you need the two extremes because that determines your range. And then you got the median or the mode or the mean, which is the main one. It's the types of average that you can have based on the most common that you come across, the absolute middle of the two extremes, or taking everything into account, working out absolute middle balance when you average out what the intents are, what the meanings are. Maybe it would be a bit dull getting into all of that at the moment, but try and keep to the point. The water is the singularity. It's something that takes the shape of whatever it is inside of. But then, if what we're talking about is boundless ocean that carries on indefinitely, it just exists forever and ever and ever. You wouldn't really know where it starts, how big it is, how small it is. There's nothing to compare it to because it is all that exists. You haven't even got a bubble floating around in it to show any difference from what the water is in its one state. And to move to the duality, you have to take the good with the bad, or you have to take the bad with the good, because you have to take everything that's along that spectrum. There'd be the yin and the yang, and every different combination of amounts of yin and yang in order to be able to make up a full spectrum of possible yin yang appearances. And this is a good candidate for creation, how things would have come to be in the first place. You start as a boundless ocean of just nothingness. I say nothingness, it gets very confusing when you have nothing to picture. So water is the best one. I mean, it's the first period in it's the first element on the periodic table. First period? First element on the periodic table is water. In the beginning of the Bible, God separates the waters from the waters. So it seems to hold a bit of weight to it, the metaphor. You have endless water, and then in order to have duality, you need to create a different state for the water to be in, like freezing some of it. I mean, could heat it up as well, but for now, to just picture it, you could freeze some of it and have some ice, some water. And that's just two different states of the same thing. But even that, the reason why that is possible is because the water isn't just made up of one element. It's made up of two elements. So you got a hydrogen and two oxygen. So three actual atoms that would be involved. But two different ones. Hydrogen, the most reactive element, and then oxygen, which oxidizes pretty much everything in this world. Oxygen is referred to as a sword or sharp. The word oxygen, I'm pretty sure that oxy means sharp, which was Greek word that meant sharp or sour, like the sour taste that you get from oxidized fruit or other things. Like an oxymoron is a sharp blunt. So oxy describes the air around us as quite sharp, which you can understand if you've ever cut yourself and then the air gets to it and it feels like you're getting loads of little cuts all over again as the oxygen hits it. On Wednesday, on Woden's Day, Water Day, I felt like everything was balanced. Like I didn't have a care in the world. Didn't feel like I needed to do anything, say anything, be part of anything. It was a very strange feeling. It was very comfortable. But at the same time as I'm feeling this and it feels good, it's got that nagging thought just telling me that there's a mission here, that there is something to do, and I'm not doing it, and I'm forgetting about it, and I'm losing this game by forgetting about it. I could be very comfortable in many different types of environment. Like before I decided to clean up my body and stop taking drugs and start eating healthier and exercising better, breathing deeper. It's not like I was unhappy before that. I was unhappy with a lot of things, and I was drinking myself to death. And I noticed that the drinking was becoming a problem when I wasn't able to wake up in the morning without having one. And then I'd be taking a coffee with me to work, which had some whiskey in it, and some Bailey's Irish cream. And then I was, or some vegan Irish cream when I started drinking again after the first time I started fasting. And that's an extreme that I got to that got me to go the other way, to the other extreme. But getting drunk wasn't exactly something that I didn't enjoy doing. I loved it because I loved the way that it made my face feel. I loved my face feeling numb, not having to think about things too hard. Like I was actually quite content with just being an alcoholic or being a heavy drug user. Before that, I was quite content being a psychedelic user or abuser, whichever way you would want to put it. It got less and less frequent because a lot of the times I'd be having the trips and I would feel a little bit guilty as I feel like I'm trying to take heaven by force. And it's happened a few times, even to the point where the most recent one that I remember that was very vivid, everything came out looking like a perfect cross of red and blue, a perfect mix of heaven and hell. All of the beauty and all of the ugly fused together in the one feature person, cartoon character, whatever it was I was looking at the time. Absolutely everything seemed to have the light and dark half. And it's like, why is it so jumbled up? Why is it so mixed up? Surely, if we can just see heaven and make heaven and manifest things, we can just have heaven and not the other side. We could just have one half of the duality. And I feel the presence of a light right here. It's in my head. But I could feel it. It was like really, really bright and beautiful. And it felt like it was the presence of the divine feminine, or the presence of a goddess, like our divine mother. And I felt the overwhelming guilt and shame of every bad thing that I'd ever said to any women that I know. And I felt guilty. I started crying. I was laying in my partner's lap at this point, and I had a headache from the intensity of the light that I could feel. And I wasn't sure what was going on, if I was having if it was my third eye illuminating or what it was. I could feel incredible amounts of guilt. I felt very dirty, very unclean. Felt like I hadn't looked after my body. Felt the state of my teeth. Felt that disgrace of, you were gifted this body and this is what you've done with it. And it's not an easy pill to swallow. I did feel at that point it was time to take some responsibility. Stop trying to force my way into heaven by taking a magic tab or some magic mushrooms. As if you are still in duality and you force your way into heaven, what's that heaven going to look like if it's a reflection of yourself? Six of one and half a dozen of the other, really, innit? It kind of feels like where we are. Keep reincarnating back into this place because it reflects the duality of what you still are. I think that it does get to a point where you manage to shed one side completely. And at that point, that would be ascension. That would be something that New Age spiritual hippies don't do. This would be people that dedicate their lives to it. Maybe people that live in the Tibetan mountains or other places that do things seriously, not just as a part of your identity lifestyle or something you've seen on YouTube. Like people that really take seriously what they do, spend up to 18 hours a day trying to stay perfectly still, get into a rhythm of deep breathing, silence the thoughts. And that was what I was going to talk about on Thursday, actually, was to do with thoughts, especially as Thursday, and thoughts. I mean, thoughts as well tends to be Thothspil, which is related to Hermes, Hermes Trismegistus, and Hermes Thoth and Odin would be the same kind of character, the same kind of messenger. They've been syncretized together in the days of the week, so I think that there are links there from that. Nothing is by accident. So the thoughts, they're to try and distract you. There's been a lot of talk about where your thoughts actually come from. Do they come from inside the mind, or are they external? And we are like radio frequency tuners. We can tune into different thoughts that are happening around us. We have those thoughts and we can take those thoughts and do as we please with them. And it does feel like that happens. I'm sure that some of you will have had the experience when you're in a room with someone. You think of something, but you don't say it. The next minute you hear them say it. And you wonder if they heard the thought in the same way as you did. And the truth is, you were probably both tuning into the same thing because of what was going on around you. Probably doesn't work unless both of you are tuning into the same thing. So you'd have the thought in the room, but if someone else is busy staring at their phone or something, it's not going to enter their head in the way it enters yours because they're not tuned in. And it's about whether or not you choose to tune in to the thoughts, as to whether or not you can sit in the complete oneness, in the stillness and silence, which would be that primordial, boundless ocean without as much as a ripple. Wouldn't have a temperature even. Can you imagine? Trying to strip away all of the concepts that would be associated with it, all of the layers of concepts that we would put over in order to create something. It's like all of the senses that you can have, things that exist around you, they have a smell, a sight, a taste, a feel, whatever the other one is that I've forgotten. It would taste, it would sound like something, it would look like something, smell like something, it would feel like something. That's like 5 different layers of information to put over the image of this form of something. So you've got form of a pillow, has a smell. I'm not going to eat it. Might taste of marshmallow. I've seen some marshmallows that look like pillows. It's an educated guess, but nah, you've got everything has its different layers to it, but to really look at the essence of what something is. When you strip it down layer by layer, everything that we have around us is like coding, programming, put in many different layers together. You have to arrange all of this information in a way that's recognizable to be able to redistribute it, for everything to follow the same rules. There's certain things that you find the you're able to sometimes see through layers. It's like when I was trying to debate whether or not this world was real, because I'd taken far too many psychedelics and I'd seen far too much to let it rest. And there was this Fight Club fan side of my brain that was looking at that pinnacle moment as, sorry to spoiler alert right here. I'm going to ruin the ending of Fight Club if some of you haven't seen it. Skip forward maybe 10 seconds. The main character was Tyler Durden, the character that he looked up to, and realizing that they were both the same character was one of those eye-opening moments for me. It's like, how can you be such a level of deluded that you're talking to someone that's not even real? And then on an acid trip, I looked at talking to my friends. We were cracking jokes about not being real, or this is all just in your head kind of thing. And it's partially due to Bill Hicks with his "Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death. Life is only a dream and we're the imagination of ourselves." And here's Tom with the weather. So I got heavily into that idea. I'm trying to work out, does anyone actually exist in this place, or what? Is this just me in an infinite hall of mirrors, like a boundless ocean of reflections? Because water tends to reflect your image when you stare down into it. Why not if you were a droplet inside of a boundless ocean? And it's trying to work out what it would look like. As Hindu concepts of the cosmic egg and the way they depict infinity, where each of these eggs lined up next to each other is a slight variant of the one next to it, and it's basically like an egg version of string theory. If you look at everything that is possible, like all of the different paradigms and variants. And it's kind of how I see as polytheistic religions cross over with monotheistic religions, because it's all that same one entity, it's all the same one energy. And it's been used to make everything. Like water. What isn't made up of like a large percent of hydrogen in this world? There's not much that is made up of absolutely no hydrogen. There's so much, especially with things that are alive. It's a lot of things require water to live, but the rest of the elements on the table as well, are they not all just variants of the hydrogen operating at different speeds or in different ways, at different tempo, different temperatures, different layers that we put on of the elements in the first place? And these layers are all figured out through coding. You have different codes that are there so that they can be recognized on a micro scale. You can fit the macro scale quite easily with the pattern recognition. Then there's been some strange videos that I've seen recently. I'm not going to I'll try and find an appropriate time to obtain one of these videos and put a clip of it or share it on my community page. It's a computer chip with a human hair, like a single human hair, just laid down, and you got the thin. Uh, you can see the thin line of hair, and then you see the computer chip next to it, and the camera zooms in on the computer chip next to it, and it zooms in again, and it zooms in again, and you can still see the details of this thing, how intricate all of the pieces are, how difficult this thing would have been to make, comparing its size to the human hair, and it zooms in again, and it zooms in again. And at this point, you're looking at it and going, what can we even perceive in our world that would be capable of creating something at that size? Something that you can't obtain through just changing physical things. Surely that is something that you can only obtain through inputting different patterns into some kind of fractal messenger. Excuse me. That is something that only God could do. The fractal messaging in the water, not the gas that I just passed. That is something only I can do. But yeah, enough about the wind element on water at the moment. The way that everything is initially just one thing and then became two things in this world of duality. It's like saying that the Garden of Eden would have been the water, but enjoying itself in paradise. Everything is going perfect. How long can you be in that state before something inside of you then decides to it wants to experience a different state? This would be like the Adam and Eve taking a bite of the apple. There was something that you told yourself not to do, because remember, this is singularity. So everything you create is yourself. Cutting yourself off from it is that veil of forgetfulness, which you need. Otherwise, you know everything that the other you knows, and it gets very complicated. It's like imagine talking to yourself, where you are controlling both selves. Eventually, will get very confusing. And a way of getting around this is to have it so that people don't remember the details. You've got X amount of memory, but certain bits are kept hidden. And now this is done at the highest level of graphics because it's God level graphics. And whatever you think God is, whether God is nature, God is your higher self, or God is some kind of demiurge if you're talking the God of this realm, or Saturn, the God of the physical realm, Father Time, God of the realm that has time, because time is yet another layer that you put on things. When you have a boundless ocean, there is no movement, as there's nothing to move in comparison with. Therefore, no time, as time is a measurement of movement. So it would be a place outside of time and this would be the place inside of time. The time even sounds like it's something that can only exist in duality. Time sounds like a tomb. Even atoms. The atom is a tomb because it is a two. And a lot of things reflect this. It's in the Matrix, Neo, which is an anagram of one. His Matrix name was Thomas Anderson. Anderson is Andros, meaning man, and son. He is the son of man. But Thomas, because he is living in duality in the Matrix. Outside of the Matrix, he is the one. Neo, which means new. Well, I mean, outside of time, you always would be, wouldn't you? There's no such thing as time. You can't really be new because there's nothing to be new in relation to. But I guess you could be Neo. You could be the one. And that was the main things that I was looking at talking about Wednesday and yesterday. As I was thinking a lot about what exactly it is that is causing such a split, such a divide, and a perpetual divide at that. So it's like a lot of what I talk about and the things that I discovered while I was tripping, and things that I pushed the boundaries of, and studying the responses that I got from other people, trying to determine whether or not they were NPCs or real people. It gets you to spend a lot of time working out if people have an agenda. And there was that side of my brain that was operating over the past few days, even where I'm spending time with family. This is that part of the brain that comes up and starts getting paranoid, starts questioning, like, they are part of the physical world as well. Maybe it's just another distraction because the physical world around you is living and it knows what you're thinking. Not directly, but it knows what you talk about. It knows when you express and share your thoughts because that comes from the thought realm out into the physical realm. And even the thought that you take is a thing that exists out there that you tune into. So the physical world can tell what you're tuning into because you can't lie to yourself. So it's like if you choose in your mind to tune into that side of things, everyone will know instantly because you can't lie to yourself. And we are all one. Like, you can put up the charades out there. I spent a long time in my life believing that when I lied to people, they knew that I was lying as I was saying it. And I'd study their eyes, try and see if they were giving away any signs that they'd sussed it out. Which I guess makes you a good liar in a way because of the eye contact. Also, being detached makes you a good liar because you're able to detach from certain things that would give away signs. I learned about things like this from a friend that taught me about NLP, neuro linguistic programming. I delved into it enough to be able to recognize it when it's used on me. But upon meeting a completely different guy who was my psychedelics dealer at one point, who I ended up living with, spent a lot of time with this guy, always knew he was a bit of a head case. He was a very manipulative guy, but at the time I admired the ability and the knowledge to manipulate people. So Spent a lot of time studying him and the way he operates and learning as much as I could from him, absorbing all of the things that he'd talk about. And he was someone that he took a lot of psychedelics and had a bad memory. So he'd end up telling you a lot of things that he does to mess with people, to get certain reactions from people, and then use those same techniques on you because he's forgotten that he's already told you the trick. And I was never quite sure if that was a test because it's like, okay, well, everything around me in this world of oneness is a reflection of me, meaning that everything that's gone wrong, it's gone wrong because of me. It was something that I did that caused things to move in this direction in the first place. And I think with him, like, it was just literally, I decided to go live with him because I felt like I would get more out of it than if I was to just look at the obvious warning signs and steer well away from it. I don't think you need to learn all of these things to be able to recognize when someone's being genuine. There's better ways to do it. Just be real. Real recognizes real. That's it. Simple as that. That's it. Don't think any more than that was needed. But I went through the routes that I did. I did what I did and I got what I got. And now I don't go exerting any of these things. I try not to. I don't put this kind of thing in my videos. I'm not using. I mean, apart from maybe when I put music in my videos, then I suppose, yeah, the music was uh, gonna have an effect on people that watch it. That's just the nature of adding music to things. Music, it will affect your mood, and it will probably help you remember things depending on what the music is, as it is linked to your memory. You get the smell, the sound, the sight. Something about these things will dig up the shape of the whole thing that's in your memory. So that was basically, that was the Wednesday and Thursday of it. And today it's just been looking at why people are in, like, trapped in duality. People call this world a prison world. They think it was made by a demiurge and that we are all trapped here like in the Matrix. And no one has any proof one way or the other whether or not that's true. No one could ever have the proof. I've done a lot of searching, and I do think that I pierced through the veil enough to recognize people that were trying to get me to come back to this world and just be normal. You know, just, oh, Dad, stop talking about your crazy stuff. You know, like, don't need to be talking about all this pedophiles in politics and all of the world not being real and it's all being projected from a part of your brain, the part of your brain that is ruled by Saturn, the part that projects and also receives the all-seeing eye. So call this whole thing IMAX, really. But just people that were like, come on, Daz, can't you just focus on something that's a bit more material? It's a bit more real. And I've always been the kind that what's been seen can't be unseen. I've seen things that poke through the veil. I've gone back to other things, material things, drinking, doing things that just involve laughing and dancing with your buddies, basically. And think I think I'm lucky that I've managed to keep my true to myself, because it's very easy to go along with the crowd. And I heard it from my mum when she was younger. There was a thing they did in school or college. There was one of those psychology experiments where you get a bunch of people to tell you that the answer to something is wrong when it's right, or that it's something that it isn't. So the teacher would ask a simple maths question, and there's a bunch of people in the room that are actors or agents. They're in on it. And there's people that are not aware that these people are in on something. So it'd be, say, something like 72 minus 35. So some people would be, they'd think 37 in their head, like, okay, that's the answer. But a large percent of the class says it's 42, or something along those lines, or 39, whatever it turns out to be. They say an answer that's the wrong answer. And the people that thought they got it right, they'll add it up again, look at the majority of the crowd giving the other answer, and then have to decide whether or not to go along with their own findings or the crowd. And that was always something that stuck out in my mind. It's something that made a lot of sense. It was like people tend to conform a lot. It was patterns that you see even at a young age. People that don't know the answer will align themselves with who they think has the answer. It's again back to what team are you on? And a lot of the people that they manage to make the answer, they come up with the answer on their own, they're going to find other people that have come to that same conclusion and be able to team up with them. But until someone else comes out with the same answer as you, or even if you're in a room and there's a group of people that start laughing at a person that said the same answer as you, are you going to feel as confident about standing up and saying, no, actually, that is this? The results of the experiment would be different depending on where it's done. But a lot of people would rather conform to the crowd than to stand out on their own, even if they know what they're saying is right and they know what the crowd is saying is wrong. And this is something that I think is quite apparent in cognitive dissonance. So, for those of you not familiar with the term, cognitive dissonance is from cognitive, which is of the brain, I believe, the cogs going round, and dissonance as in a clash, like dissonant music, very clashy tones. So you've got consonant consonant dissonance. Yeah, we have consonant dissonance. That is when letters clash over vowels, more than likely. Seeing a lot of that happen in the Welsh language. No, the cognitive dissonance is when you know something is bad for you, but you will still go ahead and indulge in it. Something that people often say is like smoking. People that smoke cigarettes, and they're like, "Oh no, it's bad for me, but uh, still gonna smoke them." And it's like, yeah, if you believe that it's bad for you and you're choosing to still do it, knowing that it's bad for you, that is considered cognitive dissonance. Same as if you are someone that believes that it's wrong to eat meat, yet you still eat meat, that's cognitive dissonance. Now, the way to change it is to either change your belief or change your actions. So, a smoker that thinks, oh, yeah, well, they tell you all this rubbish, but my nan and granddad smoked until they were 87 and they were still fine. It wasn't even smoking related death that killed them, and this, that, and the other, smoking. But yeah, you've changed your belief. You're not believing something that is now going against what you're doing, what your actions are. And a lot of this world feels like a bit of one of those psychological tests where you have to be able to recognize what the real answer is by working it out yourself. And then your test is whether or not you will go with the crowd and what they're saying, or if you manage to figure it out for yourself. And there's people that are in like the truth communities that they're still stuck in this mindset of got to find a team. You realize that the team you're on has the wrong answer. So then you try and figure it out yourself. Don't feel too confident in your own answer. Start looking for other people that might have the answer or others that have a similar answer to the one that you came up with, just for a bit of support, give you peace of mind of what you see instead. It's, or what you see is someone giving an answer that you can stand behind, and now you're picking a new team. You're teaming up with this guy. You think he's got the right answer. Well, you've just lost again because all you've done is prove to the universe around you, the universe, one verse, one. So verses is two, because one versus another, and then one verse. It's just you against yourself. You are your own worst enemy and your own judge. And you can't fool yourself. So as soon as you make your choice to go along with a new crowd rather than figure out the answer for yourself, you've surrendered the success. And I think there are so many levels of mental gymnastics and other things that you need to familiarize with before you can get to this state. You could even go out to Tibet, live in the mountains, eat nothing after 11 p.m., deep breathe the entire day, and spend months in solitude, not talking to a person, staying in stillness and silence. If you can't get your head around certain concepts when they appear to you, you're still going to be stuck in the same place. Because you might find that all you're doing in that place is aligning yourself with a bunch of Tibetans because you believed that they were the team that had the answer. They say there's no I in team. I mean, there is. If you do it all in capitals, you've got the capital A has the little I in the negative. But memes aside, they say there's no I in team because you're not supposed to be making yourself a part of anything external like that. I mean, yeah, you can go out and get the experience as part of what we're here for, is for the experience. But to pass the test, that's to develop the independence for yourself. As independence is what you need in a world where we are all one. Then it's not about dependence, it's about being able to anticipate each other's needs and help each other, which would make sense for all of us. Absolutely everyone benefits. All one of us will benefit. And it's a weird one as well, because when you spend a lot of your time doing things that you feel guilty or ashamed of, you feel like you don't deserve this love that comes from looking out for number one. I've always hated that saying, looking out for number one, even though I do believe that we're all one. It always feels selfish to me, even though in my head, doing a good deed for anyone, any person in existence, is just looking out for number one. I don't see people as too different. Like, yeah, obviously we've all got different levels of skills and cards that we were dealt, things that we've done with them. The soul of the powers is always the same. Soul means one. And it's just a recurring pattern that comes up in language, and it comes up everywhere. Now, I could even come out of this and be critical and say, okay, well, every part of the language and everything in it has been fed to us from the physical world. So if what these people say about the physical world and the demiurge being a prison, then who's to say that you can trust anything that you've heard within this place? Like, all of the language could be set up in a way to steer your thoughts in a way. It could all be billions and billions of years more developed than we've been told it is, because all we're aware of is a couple of thousand years of recorded history. And of course, history is not necessarily our story. That's his story, Saturn's story of the physical world that we're in. Singularity would mean time doesn't exist, there was no future, there is no past. All that has ever existed is the ever present now and what stems from it. Meaning, at the moment, I exist in this place, in this form, and everything that stems into my past is what I have in my memory. Everything that extends into the future is what I've managed to figure out using thoughts and probability. But they don't exist. What exists is the present moment, and what exists outside of that is not fixed. I mean, in that case, everybody gets exactly what they believe is the case. And when I say everybody gets what they believe, yeah, that includes when people turn up and interrupt other people. There was a video that I saw once of a guy that was holding his daughter up in the air, and she was flying. She was hovering in midair. And then someone walked up with a video camera. They managed to catch this on video camera. The girl was floating in the air outside of the guy's hands. The guy with the camera made a noise. The guy that was holding his daughter up turned round and saw the guy, or saw the camera. The daughter saw the camera, and she fell out of the sky. He caught her in his hands. It was like, if this was some kind of a staged thing, it was very well made. And the way it looked was so perfect to the idea that these things are possible. Flying is possible if you believe that it's possible. If there is someone else that doesn't believe it's possible, it's your belief versus their belief. And then whichever one wins out. There was a Bible story, I think, that was the same. Someone talking about flying. Look, I'm flying. What are you talking about? You can't fly. Oh, can't I? Falls. Gotta look that up. That is an interesting story to bring back up. But the main principle is that absolutely anything in this place could be a manifestation, a solidarity of what you put your focus towards, what you put your energy towards. All of what's around us is just a boundless ocean. All of the temperament of the elements around us is all in our control. Just that we're not going to know that we have control because all we get is what we believe, and a lot of what we're given to believe, what's spread around the media, the the idea is you only live once, and it's not that long, and there's a fear of missing out, and you should go do something, go enjoy life. What would you do if you could not fail? Like, I try and push this idea that you don't have magical powers, and everything that you have, I mean, it's backed up, because you'd think, why would you? If you had magical powers, why would you come into a place where you don't have these powers? What would be in it for you? The balance would easily come there, because what do you do when you have the power to do absolutely anything you want? Truthful, after flexing these powers for a little bit, you probably get bored of them and decide to do nothing. And sit there in stasis, just be in pure stillness and silence without any interruptions, knowing that you have all of this power within you, all of this potential energy. When they say a child is born with unlimited potential, I believe that. I believe that child literally can be anything. It's like, I think that if your belief is strong enough, you can wake up tomorrow believing that you are an alien that was left here, like a changeling from the old myths, and that one day your alien family are going to come back and reclaim you. If your belief is that strong, you can make that happen. That would be your reality. Who's going to tell you it's not? You're living it. If at any point your beliefs come into a crossfire with other beliefs that contradict it, go against it, you could always wake up and it's all a dream. You could always find another way to bend reality and get around it. In the Matrix, there was the kid with the spoon, the little bored kid with the bendy spoon. And Neo was asking, I think he asked him how he did that. Not even sure if he did. Kid might have just started talking to him. Or told him that it's not the spoon that bends, it's only yourself. Recognizing how much of what is around you is actually yourself, I think, is part of the awakening. So people believe that they are the body, but that's it. You just are this bit of flesh. Like, that's all there is to you. There's what you can feel, and that's it. There's that in your possessions, maybe. But people don't think about how far that could actually travel outwards. You wouldn't imagine that you could be connected to every element in existence. I mean, you can only see so far, right? So there wouldn't have to be that much at a time that you're actually seeing and manifesting in front of you. With enough practice, you could do this and just get used to all of the details falling in line exactly as they're meant to over large spans of area. You start small, work your way up. And it would make sense for the evolution of intelligence, God, nature, whatever you want to call yourself. This is how we would gain more knowledge. You start to experience it firsthand, and then maybe experience it secondhand. Get every other angle of the experience in your individuation. Then, when all of the separated pieces come together, all of the collection of knowledge is shared, everything becomes our next level of evolution. It's like revolution is our evolution. The revolution going round and round in circles, the samsara cycle, the fool's journey, going round all of the cards in the major arcana, going around all of the minor arcana cards too. It's a big circuit. Year after year, years just another measurement of movements between planets, wanderers, these wandering energies resemble a lot of things. I feel a strange level of calm. I'm not concerned about anything, I'm not worried about anything. I feel like bad things could happen this year, a lot of them, but I feel more ready for it than ever before. And I feel like I'm perfectly comfortable sitting in either heaven or hell. Don't feel like things are too difficult in hell. I think that it would be nice to be able to get stronger. I do try to make sure that I don't completely let my muscles fade away. Not got much muscle, but considering that what I eat is mainly vegan, I would say majority fruit, but recently it's been a lot of cooked meals, a lot of crispy tofu, which I consider junk food. Other people would consider that good protein replacement. I'm like, no, I eat it because it tastes good. I can feel that my body doesn't like it. It's what it is. Like one day I'm gonna decide to only feed my body what my body likes. For now, I've decided to just try and enjoy a bit more time sharing things with people that I care about in this physical reality. I've stayed away from alcohol still, which is good because I have a feeling that would pull me straight back down. That's where I suddenly get this attachment to the spiritual energy. I'd be snipped. That's it. Gotta build it all up again from scratch. Not ready for that. But when I go through phases with eating food where I'll fast and I'll get really clear in the head, really clear in the mind, there's no problem. If anything, the only problem is to stop myself from flying off everywhere when I start talking about things. I like having food because it brings me back down to earth and I start talking like a realistic person again. Not so much, the things I talk about are still very out there for a lot of people. sometimes very hard to keep up with what I'm talking about. I don't even notice where I lose people because I don't know how normal people think anymore. But do try and do my best to explain things when I feel like I'm not explaining things properly. It'd be interesting to do the live streams, be able to get people to actually ask questions when I go off on one. It's a bit. See, it's a bit of a brain teaser trying to figure out where people are at, what's going on with people that's keeping them in this level of cognitive dissonance, and whether or not it's safe for me to be talking about certain things out in the open on a public forum without angering the powers that be, because I'm actually going against what is considered natural. I think that one of the reasons why I can talk about these things is because I have plausible deniability. Everything I'm saying could be just words of a madman. It's not like I have any achievements behind me, any certificates or something of authority. All I am is a self confessed ex drug addict that talks a lot about things that you hear New Age hippies talking about. Even though I don't really consider any of it New Age, this is all ancient stuff. There's nothing new under the sun. I realize that that's what it gets grouped in with. And you can't take heaven by force. They say it's your left brain that is the problem. If you were to use just the right brain, that brings you back to the place that will get you there. The effective difference between left brain and right brain, I know the mirror's inverted, looks a bit weird, the camera's inverted. The left brain and the right brain. The left brain does repetition and survival. The right brain does sporadic and creative. So you played Minecraft, survival mode is the left brain. That's where you got to try to stay alive while doing your hunter and gathering. And you got things trying to kill you, and creepers and zombies. You got the right brain, the creative brain, where you have access to absolutely everything. And you can build absolutely everything because now you're using concept mode. Try and place something there that then you could choose to go into a survival game and recreate it while doing the hunter gatherer thing. Or you can choose to do the creation side of it first and go in and enjoy what you've created, or just do the creation side. But that's your difference between your left brain and the right brain. The right brain would be considered God mode, if you're able to create things now. The right and the left in politics, it's usually the right that are interested in religion, traditionalism, keeping to the old ways. The left tend to be all about new, new, new. We want new this, new that, new fashion, new ideas, a new breakthrough in the way that we do things. Ooh, like take this pill, you can become a member of the opposite sex. That's a very left pushed idea. I'm not even, I know I talk about this a lot, I'm not even anti trans. I don't hate on people for wanting to be a certain way or believing that they are a certain way and that these drugs are helping them become more comfortable with who they are and everything else. All I think on that subject is people have been sold a false reality. We don't have the technology to make you what you want to be. It's not possible. But people that have a lot to gain from it, from selling you the product, will tell you that it's possible because they have something to gain from it. It's quite simple. They don't really care about you or your health. They care about the money they can earn. And I think that that is where we're at. People being given false hope, false realities, and that's what we're sold. And I think that that makes it very difficult to try and have the right and left discussions about what should be possible because someday, whether it be in this world that we're living in that might be a simulation, they call it Saturn's world, this prison world, or in a virtual world where people are all going to be lining up to get Starlink, old Elon Musk's chip in their brain, so that they can live lives in virtual. Now, if you're living life in virtual, there could be a function in which you change your gender and your gender actually changes, which means that people would be able to, on there, act out any which fantasy they want with a physical body that would be identical to how they design it, really, or what they've bought, depending on what way they're trying to milk people. Surely there'd still be money elements to it. Surely that'd be where crypto and NFT currency comes in. So yeah, that's something to look forward to in the future. Eh? A load more arguments about genders. But what I think in this reality here, they don't have that yet. There's not a pill that will make it so that you will be fully changed. Your DNA coding will change. When that happens, when DNA coding actually changes, and it's to the point of, okay, we've done a DNA test on this person before and after, and before they were this gender, and after they're this gender by DNA test. That's at the point where you have to start questioning, okay, what is possible in this progression and moving forward? What is possible in life? You're not going to have the same arguments as you have with women beating up men. Sorry, wrong way around. Women getting beaten up by men in professional women's sports or the Olympics, or predators finding their way into women's spaces by pretending to be trans or of the trans community. Because you would take this thing that would change your DNA is now switched. No one would know you're any different if you were in a toilet or a prison or in a sporting event because your DNA would change. There would then be different things to do with what would be allowed in sporting events because a loophole there would mean that you could take a pill, train as a man with a lot of testosterone to build up the muscle, and then switch back over to female, try and score an easy win. What we've got to realize is that our ancestors weren't idiots. There was a reason why things were separated in the first place. Otherwise, we'd all be going about with unisex toilets and uni sporting events, uni everything. The reason why it was separated, uni prisons, the reason why it was separated in the first place was for people's safety, and mainly women's safety. And if you're not willing to stand up and say this is wrong when women are not safe, then you're a part of that problem. You're a part of that crowd that they're all saying the wrong answer, but there's more of them than there are of you. And you feel like the only way for you in this world is to join in with what the majority is saying. And I've seen that happen a lot. People that have nothing to do with talking about the kind of things that I talk about suddenly see something that they don't think is right. They'll turn around and say to the community that I actually don't agree with this, and they'll give their reasons for it. They get attacked, they get called names. Transphobe was one of them, tough. And I don't even like look, a lot of the people that are posting these things online, they've been sold drugs that give them hormone replacements. And if you've ever been around a woman on menopause that starts taking hormone replacements, you will understand that gets very tense very quick. So you get people that will be a little bit mood swingy. Like if you imagine what you were like during puberty, now that's someone having to go through that, but older. It's definitely going to be unstable. And this is a problem because not only are people being sold a false reality, they've also then got a lot more emotion to deal with. And the world in its current state is not too friendly towards people like this. If you look at the internet can be a rough place at the best of times, even if you're a person doing good in the world, trying your best to do good for everyone around you, you'll find yourself roasted all over the internet, different things said about you by different personality types. Any old troll, nature of the internet. But you get people that are rejected by large amounts of people, and they're reading all these comments online. They've got all of the hormone imbalance. It's very difficult for them. And that doesn't excuse some of the behaviors of some of the people that have gone absolutely nuts, attacked people over it. It doesn't excuse it, but it helps you understand why this is not a good thing, not to encourage people to take hormones. It's not even good for the people that medically need these things because their body is in such an extreme state. But to have yourself taken them voluntarily or to do drastic surgeries on yourself, I mean, it's only for the looks at the end of the day. If that's important to you, that other people see you in this way, that's one thing. There is also just another way of doing things so that you can feel comfortable in yourself. Recognize that none of these people that are trying to sell you anything have got the answer for you. A lot of the time, the thoughts are the problem. If you remove the thoughts, you remove the problem. You're worried about image or how people look at you. If you're able to detach from that, you're able to let people see all of your vulnerabilities and not be concerned because you are you. You weren't born in the wrong body. There's a spectrum of people out there. The ideology that they're trying to put everyone in, the unrealistic image of a guy and the unrealistic image of a girl and what they're meant to be. Very confusing world out there. A lot of women that have had things like mastectomies and sex changes, they weren't really in a place where they felt like they were born in the wrong body. They just didn't want to be sexually abused. And they've noticed a lot of the way that guys were behaving because of the way they get influenced by the music and the films and the gangs and the culture. It is a scary place for a woman to live. And a lot of women, when they go through puberty, they start to grow breast size, the pheromones start coming out of their hair. People start to notice this when they're sweating. Guys would pick up on the scent. There would be, as soon as a girl gets breasts, suddenly there's a lot of negative attention or childish, juvenile attention, I guess. I can't find the right words right now. I sound like such a twat saying stuff like this. I was just as bad as the rest of them, I suppose. Maybe not as bad as some of them, but I was just another ignorant boy. Um, there was times when I was younger that I thought it would have been easier to be a girl. So there's a lot of unrealistic expectations from men. If you feel like you're not a certain way and you don't fit into a certain category, then you start to wonder, well, what the hell am I then? If I don't fit in with the guys, then where do I fit? And that was just when I was growing up. It was quite confusing. It's people that get confused now based on a whole lot worse, a whole bigger lot of confusion. You've got people that these kids listen to. If any of them are fans of a Sam Smith or a Madonna, then they're going to be influenced in a certain way. Maybe that's enough about that side of things. Try and get back to the subject. Talking about duality, polarization, and the gender thing is a possibility in the future. It's not something that we have available now. What we have now is a bunch of people that have been sold an idea that doesn't exist. They've been sold a product which doesn't exist, or it's been embellished to appear better than it is. And you've got a bunch of sexual predators, some people that belong on the sex offenders register, some people that should never be around children or women that are using this extremity, like the certificates that they give out that will be a certificate of gender, and then other people must call you by a certain pronoun, otherwise they could face prison time or some ridiculous stuff, which has been heard of in places like Scotland, like the UK and the US in certain parts. And it's when you can see things are clearly wrong, but half of the people are cognitively dissonant. They just cannot understand. Even though you've got a large group of people telling you one thing, you should be able to see for yourself that this is not right. Everyone wants to be a nice guy. Everyone wants to be popular. People don't want to tell people harsh realities and harsh truths. And I mean, I definitely wouldn't fancy it myself, telling a person that's removed their genitals or breasts or something, to tell them that, hey, like, I'm sorry for what you've gone through, but this world has lied to you. And it's not gonna solve your problems. Most of the people that go through with the extreme surgeries, there's something like a small percent of people that go through it or that come out the other side and they're able to enjoy their lives to the fullest. The majority of people there, it's a case of big regrets because on top of it not making you happy, then you've got a whole heap of other things to deal with, a whole heap of other problems with people rejecting you, with people spending less time around you. There's people that have lost their jobs, they've lost their family, and for what? Because someone's selling an idea that this could solve all your problems. And this is, again, not an anti trans rant. I've had friends for years before it was a trendy thing that felt like they were born in the wrong bodies. And I can fully understand why, because we're made in a spectral way. There is one extreme, the other extreme, and everything in between. You will get very masculine women, you will get very effeminate guys. All of us have within us a divine masculine and a divine feminine. And I even do think that it's good to get in touch with your divine feminine. One of the best ways to do this, let your hair grow long if you can. I mean, some people can't, but even then, I imagine you could get a wig that has long hair and just feel the hair as it tickles your back. The delicate sensations is what helps you get in touch with your divine feminine. Your senses is what links you there, not what you wear on the outside, but how you allow yourself to feel on the inside. Like what the people tend to get confused on the outside because if you're just changing yourself on the outside and expecting to feel different on the inside, it's like dressing up as a policeman and expecting to feel that level of authority that you would get by being one. It can make you feel very nervous because you feel like you're not what you should be and you look like it now, so there's even more demand on you to be that. But change comes from within. And if this world truly is, we are all one, then my friend, you already have the power to change your gender. And that power comes from within. And that power comes from being able to let go of the body that you're in, return back to that state of primordial, boundless ocean, and then incarnate as a female or as a male, as whatever gender you like. Pretty sure with our stage of what would we call it? Uni-entity, universal evolution, we could get to a point of experiencing things that would be outside of the two genders that we have here, the polarized genders. I get that people sometimes get angry. They're like, no, there's way more genders than two. It's like, no, no, no. We're talking gender here. We're talking you have masculine, feminine, and neutral. There are three, and neutral isn't really so much a gender as it doesn't occur naturally very often. It's due to deformities, people born with limb deformities, like people that their parents took the thalidomide drug during pregnancy might have had deformities like that. But generally, people are born with one or sometimes two sets of genitals. It's another type of deformity. But you are born with XX or XY chromosomes. It's like that's what determines gender. That's what in language you have two genders. There's masculine words, feminine words, and then the neutral words, which don't fall into either gender. So technically three, but it's that kind of you've got one extreme, you've got the other extreme, and then you've got a halfway point in between those, which shares traits of both. And truthfully, there's a full spectrum. It's just a very strange place to navigate yourself through. I think the main takeaways from it is we already have everything that we need. And if we truly want to ascend from this place, it starts from being able to fully let go of everything within this place. My problem with that is that I'm far too comfortable in this place. I've gotten to a stage where I absolutely love everything, even the bad. And I don't love it as in want to indulge myself in it, but I love it because the concept of it is magical. It's perfect. Balances perfectly with what's around it. Everything here is exactly as it's meant to be in order for us to learn and to do exactly what we're meant to do. We're already in heaven. It's just remembering how and why this place is heaven. You can't take it by force. The reason why it's in duality around us is a reflection of what's happening with us. And it's here to teach us this lesson. Can't skip lessons because that comes out in the finished result. As if the idea is we've got to get to heaven. Or until you manage to change within to find the heaven within, you're never going to be able to find heaven without. Because what's around you will reflect what's inside of you. If you're in conflict on the inside, all that is around you is the world of duality. All that you'll end up getting from your heaven is like I got from that acid trip. A fusion of the two extremes. It's like the perfect creation. You can't force your way in if you're a bad guy. It's like the old temples that they used to have. So the temples would sometimes have treasure. Now, there'd be an obvious place in which the treasure would be put. Obvious enough that people could figure it out. Like, you march in there with weapons, you could take down the temple, kill some people. You could find something. There was this specific one in India where they had found it looked like a load of thin pieces of metal that were kept in this box. And thin slivers of like precious metals. So it was silver, gold, I think platinum, maybe. I might be remembering it wrong. and it just looked like a little bit of throwaway treasure. So obviously not worth that much, but you could understand why they would keep it locked away, because that's what little amount of treasure that this group of people that pray in this temple had managed to gather and collect. It's only when you use the right brain and connect all of the pieces together, you realize it's actually a map. And that map leads you to where the treasure was. Now, that's not something that a left brainer would be able to figure out. They'd end up not being able to take the treasure by force. It takes being able to piece things together in a more sensitive way, in a way that people don't behave when they are strike with a weapon and take it minded. And this is the perfect balance of it, because no matter how strong you are in this world, no matter how threatening you are, you're not going to be able to outdo yourself, especially not your higher self. You'll never be able to get into heaven without first becoming someone that can be there without your presence disrupting it. It's something that is initiated as soon as you have become that person, that the reflections will all reflect heaven back to you. It's like becoming so enlightened that what reflects back just helps you shine brighter. You have to do it in such a way where it's not going to just blind you because you stare at the wrong thing, catch yourself in the eyes with your own light, amplified. It's a bit like not going too close to the sun, that it melts your wax wings and you fall like Daedalus, or Icarus in the story of Daedalus and Icarus. 2 hours nearly. Wow. Should probably cut this soon. So I think that, to round it up, the reason why I'm able to get away with talking about this kind of stuff is because left brainers would not be able to get to it, to the actual information. How many left brain type people do you think would get 1 hour and 53 minutes into this film, or into this video, to hear me talking about, well, maybe a bit less, to hear me talking about earlier subjects, but who's going to get an hour into me talking like this with the mindset of a left brain? Well, there's no value in this, let's just move on. Specific minds are the ones that are going to get the messages. It's one of the reasons I don't promote. I fully believe everyone that's meant to hear this message will hear this message. Anyone that's meant to hear what I'm talking about will hear what I'm talking about. Everyone else out there, they're just not ready. So I was watching a thing about McDonald's earlier, and it was talking about how unhealthy McDonald's is, and it's about the cognitive dissonance in people. There's people talking about how much stuff in it is very questionable. There was loads of cases of people putting human meat in burgers in places in America, in a place in Louisiana, I think, that had a guy going around selling or delivering burger meat to McDonald's, and he had a severed head in the fridge, and all sorts of stories that came up. Plus, not to mention the amount of poison that was in the chips, and The chips are a very special long type of potato that's quite difficult to grow, and it's very difficult to keep aphids off of them. And you don't want those brown streaks in them, otherwise the companies will refuse to take them, like McDonald's have refused to take them. So the farmers that farm these things, they have to go out there and spray the crops, and it's a heavy spray to try and get rid of aphids, and it's so toxic that after they sprayed it, the farmers themselves won't go out into the field for 5 days. And once the potatoes are harvested, they actually get locked away in another room because they're not fit for consumption for at least 6 days. It might even be longer than that. But the amount of chemicals just in their potatoes alone, just in the chips, and it's, I think Cat Williams and his stand-up set about it was just saying like, so it doesn't matter how much I tell you about this, there's people in the audience right now that listen to me say everything I'm saying right now about all of this, and they'll still pop by a McDonald's on the way home, grab themselves a cheeseburger or some nuggets and chips. It was this cognitive dissonance. It's like the same as I had when I was drinking, even though I knew that the alcohol was not doing me any favors. When I was smoking tobacco, even though I could see the amount of damage it was doing to my teeth, and especially with acid reflux that I was getting from a lot of food that I was eating, and I could tell that eating fast food a lot was doing me damage, but still went out and bought more. At the moment, it's telling that certain foods are not agreeing with me, choosing to continue eating them. We've all got our own cognitive dissonance to battle with. And then it's using things to their advantage. I don't feel like it's my mission to come here and try and get everybody to break their cognitive dissonance. Everything happens at the exact time it's meant to. People cannot do things before they are ready. It will happen exactly the time it's meant to happen. What I feel like I'm here to do is to lay this out there, because it's not something that I've seen done before. It's not something that I've heard before. I mean, I've heard everything that I talk about in other places because I've gone seeking out the knowledge and stuff, but I'm going to keep trying to find new ways to get these messages out, because I feel that there are people that would benefit from them. I would benefit from them if I was to follow all of my own advice. But even that, I don't feel like it's my time yet. I'm not ready yet. I think that what would be much better is to go around doing this for a while, just spreading the information online, doing my best to build up a channel. Not really a big following, but to leave the messages out there in a place where you can access them. And it'd be a small enough channel that I stay under the radar, so I don't get picked up by YouTube for getting too much attention, or from other channels and get cancelled and just have all my content removed. I mean, if it happens, obviously it was meant to. Everyone that would have seen the message would have been the ones that needed to. But I do feel like part of why I can say what I'm doing is because I have no proof. So therefore, I'm no use to the scientific community. The ones that demand definite proof, the ones that would look at the etymologies that I do and say, ah, yes, but it doesn't work for everything. In science, it needs to work for absolutely everything. Otherwise, if there's an exception to the rule, well, then it's not a rule. Like, it's not the way it happens in science, but it's the way it's supposed to. Things work into a 5 sigma certainty. be a way of saying, okay, well, we've got this result from something every time that we've done it. We'll take that as an assumption that it will continue to happen this way every time. Now, the way that I believe in things is that what I was explaining earlier, it's about what you believe. If you go into it searching for one thing, that is what you will find. If you search for the other, that is what you will find. Meaning that the scientific minded will only ever get one side of things because they'll go round and round in circles, always picking at something and then finding that it's a big vicious cycle. You can't get out of a place where everything is logic based. This leads to this, leads to this, leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. The cause and effect will go around in a circle. And you'll keep finding what you expect to find. When it contradicts, the thing that you find on top will help reassure you. But yeah, you get certain things that can't be explained using scientific ways. You look at all of the links between things that come up, as well as the coincidence. There's loads of things that gematria will show you. But yet, to a scientific mind, well, because not absolutely every combination of letters and numbers will align with that specific meaning. Therefore, that's not a scientific discovery. That's not even a theory with good backing. To a scientific mind, to a left brainer. But then, if you're able to use the creative side of your brain, you might be able to get to the treasure. A bit like that map. There's that map in that temple. If you're just looking at it and go, all right, scientifically, let's look at this. The value of this, the value of this. We've probably got like this amount worth of precious metal here. Wonderful load of treasure. Let's go. Let's move on. Nothing of value here. Didn't even consider looking for the map. And that's where the science brain gets you. The science brain is the left brain. The religious brain is the right brain. Science and religion, two opposing sides. In Latin, left is sinister, right is dexter. If you're dexterous, I mean you're right because you're able to do things. Being left, being a bit more sinister, it's a definite clue in the name. These scientist types, These mad scientists. These mad scientists from the loony left. They are the ones that do these experiments. Do very sinister experiments involving things with dissecting. It's the root word of science is to do with dissection. I think science comes from the old Proto-Indo-European word Sheol, which I think Sheol might be pronouncing it wrong. It's the actual same root word for the word Scheiße in German. Now, I'm sure that most of you know what Scheiße means. It's the German word for poop. The English word shit is also stemmed from the same word. So you have the word science and the word shit come from the same word, which means to cut off. So as you're having a poo, There's that bit that your sphincter will cut off and it will drop. Hence the Shiza, the cut off dropping. The science is about dissection, separating things to be able to understand the individual parts. So, say you had God on the right side, the left side would be the rainbow, which is splitting the bright white light up into the 7 different colors. LGBTQ, I think they would reside in the left. They're left brained. The again, another opposition to religious types, I think mainly because of the gay people wanting to get married side of things, but probably for a lot of other reasons too. Especially if you go to an extreme like the Westboro Baptist Church. I have the little kids holding up the sign saying God hates fags. And it's like, I think you've missed the point of God. Don't think God hates anything. God is love. God is not passion. God is not love and hate. God is not in duality. God is love. I mean, love might have its duality. There's tough love. There's unconditional love. But ultimately, there is nothing but love from God. As God is representing all that is good. The devil, deviation from the path. So Satan is the opposer. It means when you go the opposite way, you become a rebel. So you're siding with the devil rather than God. If you're siding with God, you don't have to be siding with any kind of white-haired man in the sky or anything like that, or picking a religion. God sends religions. You don't need to be part of a religion to. I mean, every religion's going to tell you, oh yes, you need to be part of us. If you're not with us, you're going to hell. Where's the truth in that? God exists for everyone, whether you can read or not. You don't need a book. You don't need a group of people to do things for goodness sake, for the sake of just being good to yourself and others around you. You don't need a book for that. You don't need to be aware of what you're doing. I'm sure that there's a way for people to ascend to heaven without ever being aware they were even on that journey. And what it comes down to is how much you're willing to let go of. Now, the left and right thing, I still think, regardless of how much you could consider one side being the side that's right and the other side being the one that gets left behind, because war not determine who is right, war determine who is left. I understand it. Like, I get it that there isn't really a choice in the matter when it comes down to singularity, because there is a right answer to everything and everything would be perfectly aligned in that way. And I think that things only work if it's one extreme or the other in terms of which singularity you get to experience. There is a good one and there is a bad one. But then depending on who you are, depends on whether it's good or bad for you. And the idea of the rapture, where there were two in the field and then there was one, like Thanos clicking his fingers and then half of the universe never existed. It's easily possible. What you have is separating the people, work out who's on what side. You will pick one side or you will pick the other side. You cannot pick both. You cannot serve both God and the mammon, for you will end up loving one and hating the other, or growing close to one and resenting the other, or something. Man, I really need to read the Bible more frequently to do these quotes. Still love the stories. You can't serve two masters. You'll pick one or you'll pick the other. And we're going to be here in this world of duality until we've chosen one way or the other. One way is full rebellion. You don't want anything to do with God or working together for the good of the people. Which I'm not judging at all. Some people, they do just want to watch the world burn. Some people have been through a lot in this world, and I can understand why they would want to watch it burn. Hell, I've been through a lot in this world. And it's nothing compared to some of the people I've met physically, and that's nothing compared to the people that I've heard about. It's a very tragic place, what's possible. And I'm at that stage where I feel content no matter what I choose. Because I can happily live with either side. I mean, I prefer to be on the right, but I'm aware of how I was made and the journey that I've been through. Started off in the. It's like I started off in hell, started working my way towards heaven. Be ashamed now to give up and start walking back towards hell. Might as well just keep pushing forward. I mean, once you're in heaven, you could always decide to come back, right? You probably do quite often. Because what is heaven? Heaven is the stillness and silence of. I mean, that's pure heaven, isn't it? The stillness and silence of the boundless ocean. But then when you've got control over that, your shadow's been put in its place, you have freedom. It's when your survival mode becomes creative mode. Suddenly you don't need to go hunting and gathering for elements anymore because everything you want is at your fingertips. You just go into another menu and you find it. So yeah, where I'm at right now, still think it's important to share this information. There's many other me's watching right now that might do a lot better than me. I really hope you do. I really hope you get further than I did. I'll probably get there eventually. I mean, I'm pretty confident that I will all get there eventually. You know what I mean? Eventually could be any amount of time. I've got faith in everyone being able to find their way. Doesn't mean we're not all going to make some crazy mistakes first. If you are 2 hours and 14 minutes into this video, I hope some of it's been helpful. The chances of you hearing this message are so remote. that's got to count for something. Like before I had the inspiration to start fasting and changing my diet, I saw so many things that mathematically impossible for me to have caught all of these things at the right time without some kind of divine help. Especially as a lot of the information that I got came after I put my hands together and surrendered to God. I was in a dark place, what they call the precipice, and I was really confused about what had been happening. It was just after I had got kicked off of Facebook for sharing videos of people, police officers actually allowing people into the Capitol Hill building on a date in January that I'm still probably not allowed to say. It's weird the way that algorithms work. And I was very confused about things because I was expecting it to go a very different way. And I'd completely alienated myself from all of my friends. And I had a lot of good friends, or at least so I thought. And it was where I managed to put my hands together. And I pretty much stayed silent in the mind, apart from just asking, what should I do? What direction do you want me to go in? Like, I was under the impression that everyone was going to have a big reveal. We were going to see some bad people being exposed. And a lot of this cognitive dissonance was going to break in people's minds because people were getting really outraged over all sorts of subjects. One of them was to do with inoculations. So you're going to try and avoid saying the V word just in case. But the inoculations, that sparked up massive arguments. And a lot of cognitive dissonance there as well. People arguing with me about, it's, yeah, but you're not supposed to be thinking about you. You're supposed to be thinking about the person next to you. Like, yeah. And it says that there's no guarantee here that you won't be able to pass it on as a carrier. So where does that advice get anybody? Well, it is what it is, and what happened happened. What I saw after I started praying that day, so a lot more things that were turning up. I started looking into the tree of life, the Kabbalah, so the dance of the Hebrew letters. So a lot of different things to do with the tree of life, and then came across Santos Bonacci talking about many different things that I'd been looking into to do with space, platonic solids, planets, astrology. My main two questions was trying to figure out where astrology, the zodiac, came from, and where the tree of life, the Kabbalah, came from. I've done sacred geometry up till the seed of life and the fruit of life, and I was like, but how in the hell does that become the tree? So interesting, isn't it? Fruit, known as apples, because the word for fruit and the word for apple was the same in, is it French? Probably in Latin. I think in French, yeah, pomme is apple, but also fruit. Pomme de la terre is potato, which is apples of the earth. terror being terror. It's the fruit of the earth. It's interesting that I had then decided to take this bite, just this bite of the fruit of life, to gain this knowledge of what the tree of life was. Managed to find some really interesting stuff, but it was mainly every time I was watching Santos Bonacci talking, he was going off about philosophers and people that Neoplatonists, all of the great minds of the past, all vegetarian and vegan. And that kind of started to sink in. But not much. I was still eating meat while I was listening to him talk. I was still getting drunk while listening to him talk. But after a certain amount of time, you can't ignore it anymore because you keep seeking this information and you keep getting these messages. The reflection was I needed to sort out myself because change comes from within. And I do think things have gotten better since then. I do think that things started getting bad because I started getting bad, and everything on the inside is the outside. I feel bad that I let things get so bad that we had things in the world happen like COVID, like the lockdown, like that, even especially when I found the word, because it was always one word, coronavirus. They didn't put it as two separate words. It was coronavirus as one word. Perfect anagram of the word carnivorous. And that started me thinking, like, maybe what Santos was saying makes a lot more sense. If you were to look at people being philosophers, being vegetarian and vegan, it means that you escape certain things like this that come round and take loads of lives. And I did wonder if maybe the people that were getting the raw end of the stick, the worst cases of COVID, were the ones that were eating the most meat. Never saw any evidence to back any of this up. Eating meat probably isn't as dangerous for you as eating what they sell to you in the supermarkets. If you were to raise an animal on your farm, treat it with love, kindness, and respect, and on the day of the cull, you're eating an animal that hasn't been stressed out its entire life, releasing cortisol into its system. You haven't been complicit in this by just allowing it to go on and just say, okay, well, I'll still pay for it, just don't show me it, just go, I'll eat it with my eyes closed. I'm not saying don't eat meat. It's just likely that if you're ignoring warning signs, you're going to end up suffering. And at the time, I thought that the warning sign was the virus. It just, so much of it made sense and linked up, especially Corona through the crown. It's the part that's associated with Saturn, the crown chakra. I mean, it's a bit weird because both the third eye chakra and the crown chakra get associated with Saturn, but the crown chakra gets associated with Saturn or Coronos. And you've got the Santa who comes down your chimney, which is the top part of your head. When you open your third eye, that's when the light comes in through the crown, through the chimney. They reckon there's this hole in your head that's present when you're a baby that covers over as you get older. The reason why monks shave the middle parts of their heads is because that reminds them of the light that would come through from the crown chakra. I think a lot of these things have been taken out of religion, mainly because they don't want people ascending. They want people to stay down here and replicate, because it helps them with their magic tricks. Because if all it works is mass amounts of what people believe will get something to happen. If the majority of people believe in one thing, then the minority suddenly lose their powers. And it's quite easy, isn't it? To control the world, all you need to do is keep replicating people and get them indoctrinated into your system. It's like saying the people in that experiment, the psychological experiment, where they'll all tell you one answer, even though it's the wrong answer, and you've got to decide whether or not you're going to stick with the right answer that you figured out, or go along with the crowd because it's easier and you get less people make fun of you. It's like that kind of a system all over again. Just with billions and billions of people instead of a classroom full. If you get the entire school instead of just one class, say the next part of that experiment was to leave that classroom and go ask other people in other classes, and everyone in every other class was giving you that same response. Like, what, half of 80 is 24? Everybody knows that. Like, no matter how absurd it is, surely after a period of time of hearing everyone that you come into contact with give you that same answer that is not the answer that you picked, eventually that would manifest in a way that you have to question your own sanity and think, have I got it wrong? And if you've got the majority of people all believing in things that stop us from being able to fly, because as we start believing in ourselves and we manage to take off, someone else comes in and shoots us down with a stare. Makes you wonder what would be possible if so many people weren't overwhelming the place with propaganda belief. And it also makes me wonder what will happen when enough people start realizing and breaking away from this kind of thing. When enough people break out of the cognitive dissonance, start stopping and taking a look at themselves and going, hang on a minute, why am I eating this McDonald stuff? This is rubbish. This is, leave it out on the floor. Animals don't even eat it. Animals walk past it, they look at it in disgust. There was a starving, homeless dog, and someone put 6 nuggets down in a box, fresh, steaming 6 nuggets, opened the lid. The dog walks up, smells the nuggets, and then urinates on them. This is the animal kingdom. They're doing their best to show that, hey, look, this is rubbish, this is ruined, this is waste, this is toxic, this is poison. Because they're in touch with their natural senses. Whereas we're in touch with adverts. What's an advert? If it adverts your attention, just a distraction, isn't it? Deviate you from the path, pull you to the left, bit sinister. So yeah, it's just not a political thing. As again I say, I believe that birds don't fly with just one wing. You need 2 wings to fly. You need a balance of left and right. And in order to find singularity, it's about being able to find that balance. The balance is obviously a duality thing. Even the name Baal from balance is to do with Taurus, the second sign. Bull, Baal, interchangeable. Then you have the Baal or Baal. I'm going to go into symbolism on that when I can do some photos and make a presentation. This is 2.5 hours in now, so I'm going to cut it here. Seems to be a good point. And again, the reason I think that I'm safe to say this is because if you've made it through 2.5 hours of me talking like this, you deserve this information. You're definitely not a left brainer if you've managed to stick with me for this amount of thought, this amount of weighing up different parts of it. Like, you definitely deserve this. Now I'd encourage you not to share it with anyone. It's much better if you could take this and apply it to your own life without anyone else knowing. Because for whatever reason, you've managed to find your way to this information. It must be relevant to you. For everyone else, who knows where they're at, man? They might be in a place where they need another McDonald's. Like, I'm not judging. I used to eat 3 McDonald's breakfasts a day and then lunch. Glad that I managed to get a lot of that out of my system now. Still feel like it's going to take a few more years of fasting to get rid of absolutely everything, but it's a good start. 3 years in now to cleansing my body. Wished I'd started much younger. But at the same time, I needed exactly everything to happen the way it did for me to learn my lesson the way I needed to. And outside of this place, in that stillness and silence of the boundless ocean, we'll already have everything we want. So I'm at that stage now where I feel fully content now. And I'm not sure what that means. Should I keep giving the messages out or not? I'm content with not. I like doing it. Guess what I'm going to have to do is just keep on moving in the way that I have. Go with the flow, so to speak. Try to spend more time with the people around me that I care about. And that way I've done absolutely everything that I can in preparation for this next year. It's a very difficult year that we've probably got coming. Hope I'm wrong about it, but it's a feeling, not a belief. So yeah, any of you that are still listening at this point, thank you a whole hell of a lot. Because that is the greatest compliment for someone to get through 2.5 hours of me talking and still be listening for more. And that is seriously, like, honestly, thank you. If you're here listening to me doing this, thank you for hearing this message. I will be back. Stay tuned for more.